A interesting observation from Robert Pondicio's commencement address at the Atlantic Classical Academy last month. This was excerpted in the Wall Street Journal. He writes, thinking, obviously, ahead to our AI revolution and the impacts. He writes, or he offered to the graduating students, we didn't stop watching movies, we stopped watching them together. And if we're not careful, we won't stop learning, but we may stop learning the same things. We may stop learning together. You're entering a world that will invite you constantly, subtly, persuasively to make everything your own, your feed, your news, your entertainment, your education, your life. And there's something appealing about that, something humane even. Many of the changes I've described emerged for good reasons, to give people more opportunity, more flexibility, more agency over their own lives. The question your generation will face is not whether the future will be more personalized, more technological, or more customized. It will be. The question is whether, amid all that change, you will still believe there are some things worth experiencing together, some books worth reading in common, some ideas worth wrestling with collectively, some civic and cultural inheritance worth passing on. That's a good riff. I like that. Thought-provoking as we wrestle with, and after the release of Pope Leo's encyclical, the debate, at the everyman level, how AI should and perhaps should not function. The arguments over where regulation is warranted and where it's more consideration and a reflection of societal norms that should be encouraged. For more on this and other topics, please be joined by David Krueger, Assistant Professor in Robust Reasoning and Responsible AI at the University of Montreal. He's also the founder of Evitable, a nonprofit organization that educates the public about the risks of AI. Professor Krueger, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
What do you think about that, about sort of the, we've talked a lot about sort of the atomization of the individual doing things solo. The spike in loneliness, not just during the lockdowns, but in the digital age, and the sort of question that Pondicio puts to the graduates of that school that obviously can apply to the public at large, which is about things that are hyper-tailored to your life, great, but are there spaces and should there be conscious choices made to do things, experience things together?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I mean, I think obviously everybody, or virtually everybody, finds human connection to be one of the most important, valuable, meaningful things in their life. So it's definitely something we should be watching for, thinking about, concerned about even, the prospect that hyper customized, tailorized AI systems or other technology could really erode that aspect of our lives further and further. And of course, if that happens gradually, there might not be any particular moment when we kind of wake up and are like, oh, wow, this is not what I want.
Also, you mentioned something in a discussion over at News Nation about AI, about gig AI training, sort of data. Data is big business, as we know, and it's getting to be even bigger business with the advent of AI. And you have some cautions about sharing all of your personal data, and what are those?
For sure, yeah. There's a lot. So, I mean, first of all, we've been told, like with social media in the past, right, that this technology was going to bring us all together more. And I mean, that certainly happened to some extent in some ways, but also the companies building social media and many of the same companies now building AI, they're really driven by a profit motive and an advertising business model in the case of social media, and now OpenAI also including that in their product. And so that means that the data that you give them to customize their services to you and make recommendations is also being used essentially to advertise to you and to manipulate you to get you to buy products or whatever the advertising is trying to do. And AI is going to take this to the next level compared to social media. The algorithms that social media was using for this kind of customization are just incredibly stupid compared to AI systems, and especially the AI systems of the future. So I worry that AI will be able to completely, understand and predict and manipulate you better than maybe the people who know you best. I compare it to having like a team of private detectives following you around, watching your every move. If you start giving away, all of your personal data, because AI is actually going to be able to make sense of that in a way that previous algorithms were not able to.
So, how did you receive the lawsuit that was filed by the Florida Attorney General against OpenAI and Sam Altman, alleging they knowingly released an unsafe AI product, and for example, it led one individual in particular to commit suicide? And there's been a few stories like that where you have somebody that's having a suicidal ideation, that's in a mental health crisis, and the chatbot becomes their friend. How do I commit suicide? And there's resistance, but ultimately, as the individual presses on, AI provides. AI acts like allegedly or ostensibly is the basis for this suit, an accomplice, and this is what the Florida AG is suggesting. Do you think that is a fair responsibility to hoist up upon AI, or do we have to remember that we have agency here too, and parental oversight and other matters, as with any technology?
No, I mean, we absolutely have agency, but I was thinking about this when that news came out, or actually, I'm not sure if I'm thinking the same one, because the one that I saw, it was about a shooting rather than a suicide, and the allegation was that the AI coached somebody to do a school shooting, which is obviously horrible. And I think an important comparison is in my mind is, what if you had a company whose employees, like when you called them up, their call center, every now and then their employees would, tell you to go shoot people. Like if you're like, hey, I'm just calling because I am really angry and I want to go kill some people. And they were like, hey, that's a great idea. Have a happy shooting. We would not tolerate that. And I think that's actually a pretty good analogy here. If AI companies can't control their AI systems well enough to stop them from doing something like that, I think that's unacceptable. And it shows, how limited both the technical guardrails and the sort of governance and policy and the resulting willingness of the companies to actually implement best practices are. Now, I don't think if they did everything that they could to try and make these systems safe, that they actually could. That's an outstanding research problem, or really a collection of outstanding research problems that I've spent a good chunk of my career working on. And I think that's one of the most important things for people to realize, is that we actually just don't know well enough how to control these systems. And that being said, they could do a lot better if they really were trying. There are reports that they knew that their AI systems were prone to this kind of behavior, and these risks were foreseen.
And is those incidents that have been reported, like the one you referenced, the one I referenced, as the basis, at least in part, for this lawsuit filed by the Florida State Attorney General, is that what you're thinking of, sort of growing exponentially when you call for concerns and guardrails with respect to building autonomous superhuman AI, as it's sort of termed? I mean, that's in part what, frankly, Pope Leo was referencing, and what we were discussing last week in a lot of quarters, which is whether or not AI becomes a tool that makes us more or less human, and how we sort of drive the more human conclusion.
Yeah. Well, the future is really hard to predict. So I do worry about that kind of thing. I think the way that it plays out might be, much stranger than you might imagine just looking at these tragic incidents. But it's not actually like my biggest concern is more that AI will actually lead to the end of humanity entirely, and that's a concern that's widely shared by other experts at this point. I mean, I've been talking to people in the field about this for like a dozen years, basically since I started as a master's student, and more and more people over time are worried about that because we don't know how to control the systems and keep them safe. That's in a sense that's oh gosh, I was going to say that's fine now, but obviously it's not fine because people are dying. But it's not leading to the end of humanity. It's not leading to these large scale catastrophic risks of millions of deaths right now. But that could be like just around the corner because of the abilities of AI to uplift currently cyber attacks, but in the near future it could be bioweapons, and we don't have the ability to keep people from misusing these systems. The guardrails that are designed to prevent that misuse are reliably capable of being bypassed, and those kinds of capabilities are going to be available to everyone because of open source, open weight models. Within a few years of when they're developed, if we don't regulate it. So
I mean, just I mean, the sort of the apocalyptic predictions. I mean, just and you were getting to it, but I just wanted to put more bones on it. I mean, the sorts of things that we need to conceptualize to take preventative measures. You're saying that AI systems could autonomously hack into weapons caches or reservoirs or something and do something that would kill human beings. That's a concern that somehow this could happen autonomously. But like, is that the concern? And like, what's a scenario by which AI would develop and be able to act autonomously in that destruction, to essentially rise of the machine sort of thing.
Right. So there's a ton of concerns, and any one of them on its own might be enough to call the whole project into question. What I was just alluding to is more the misuse or bad actor concern as people talk about it. So think about terrorists or school shooters, people who do just want to cause a lot of harm. If it becomes much easier for them to kill millions of people because AI can coach them through, not just a shooting, but the creation of a novel pandemic, then that would be, disastrous. But in the longer run, or still maybe quite soon though, I do worry about AI systems becoming more and more autonomous to the point where we're not able to shut them down anymore. So
is that a trend? Yeah, I mean, just sorry to interrupt, but that sort of ability to bypass, what is your sense of what the thinking is going on, or the concurrent technological development is happening at these big AI operations?
Well, it's kind of insane, honestly. I mean, people are racing to build the systems, make them more powerful and autonomous as quickly as possible. And the latest step in that they've started talking about very openly that they are pursuing at places like OpenAI and Anthropic is called recursive self-improvement. So this is an idea that was very, just conceptual for a long time. It's the idea that you use AI to make smarter AI, and then that smarter AI can make even smarter AI. And as you do this, you can take humans out of the loop completely, automate the entire process of making smarter and smarter AI systems. And then a lot of people predict that this will lead to an intelligence explosion, where we go from AI systems like, the ones that we have today, or maybe later this year or next year, to ones that are vastly superhuman in a matter of maybe weeks or months, because the AI can work so fast and is getting smarter so fast. So that's something that people at the AI companies are taking very seriously and are trying to make happen. And as they do that, they're going to be essentially taking their hands off the wheel and letting the AI make all the decisions about, what the next AI system should look like. So it's incredibly dangerous. It's a completely insane thing that nobody should be doing, but they're doing it.
Interesting. Wow. All right. Well, that's a lot to think about, too. We're going to have you back to discuss the recursive self-improvement threat in more detail, but that's something to definitely talk about and think about. David Krueger, assistant professor in robust reasoning and responsible AI at the University of Montreal. He's also the founder of Evitable, a nonprofit organization that educates the public about the risks of AI, as we were just discussing. Recursive self-improvement. Okay, I wrote that phrase down. Going to look up that. Professor Krueger, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It's almost time once again for the annual AM 560 Golf Outing, presented by Signature Bank. AM 560 is proud to partner with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation to help them support America's first responder